It's 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon in Newcastle, Australia. It is 5:30 in the morning in Manchester, England. And this is the only place in the world where 17 teams can come together though we kick one out. And where only the bye round go into a game as the favourites. Yes, this is the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Connor Marcellis, and today it is finally here, ladies and gentlemen. It is week 1 of the NRL Telstra Premiership for 2023. So before we get into the action today, if you like what we do here, make sure you leave us a like and hit that subscribe button, and then give us a follow on all our social media pages, sharing it far and wide, SideChatYT, the hashtag. Now, let's jump right into the action. The Parramatta Eels and the Melbourne Storm will meet to open the season at CommBank Stadium.
Blockbuster game to open in the season. The brand new 2023 season. What a game to start off with.
25th anniversary of the National Rugby League. We're going to be talking a lot more about that, so get used to hearing that, and there'll be something special planned for this Friday. But first, let's go through who's lining up and who's missing out.
All right, so for the Melbourne Storm, I'm presuming we're going to go through the full list as we normally would do on the new season, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
And then only the changes from round 2 onwards.
Yep. So at fullback for the Melbourne Storm, we have got Nick Meaney with the wins. We've got a debutant for Will Warbrick, and then Xavier Coates, with the centres being Remus Smith and Yanton Mapea. The halves are, as per usual, of Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes. At lock, you got Josh King, with alongside him being Trent Lorio and Eli Katoa, with the big boys up front of Nelson Sofa-Solomona, Harry Grant and Christian Welch, the returning Christian Welch. And off the interchange, we've got Tyrone Wishart, Alec McDonald, Chris Lewis, Jordan Grant, with the 18th man being Grant Anderson.
And Coach Craig Bellamy. Now, for the home side, the Parramatta Eels, co-captain Clint Gutherson lines up at fullback. He is flanked out wide by the Fijian brick Micah Sivo and the returning Bailey Simonson, surprisingly. Closer into the centres, we have Will Penasini. So screw you, Eddie Jones. And Walker Blake back in the centres. In the halves, it is Dylan Brown and the yet-to-be-resigned $1 million man, Mitchell Moses. It's an all-new looking back row. Jermaine Hopgood at lock forward and his second row edge, Bryce Cartwright and former Dogs back rower Matt Dury. And up front, Regan Campbell-Gillard, English international, formerly Josh Hodgson, and the other co-captain, Junior Paolo. And off the bench, Jariah Momowisia, Jack Murchie, Wiramu Gregg, and Makahisi Makatoa, and they're coached by Brad Arthur.
Good, really strong lineups at both sides. Obviously, still not, well, I was going to say Melbourne are not as full strength as what they would like to be with their without Ryan Pappenhausen there, but it's still a very solid
And Justin
lineup.
Olam. Don't forget, there is no Justin Olam for 2 months.
That's right. So, 2 big names out from Melbourne to kick off the season, but it's still a very, very solid lineup.
I do tend to agree. I think the second row combination is where I'm a little bit concerned with that. And not to mention, as we've said before, Melbourne have lost a lot of experience up front.
They certainly have, like the Bromwich boys, Kafusi, and everyone, like all the ones that pretty much jetted off to the Dolphins, really, as well as other clubs, but mostly the Dolphins. But
well, anyone who's signed up by the Dolphins is where you go when you can't fit under the sombrero.
That's the Roosters, not the Storm. But still, yes.
But it's the same philosophy.
Yes.
You could have the Bromwich brothers and Felice Kafusi. That's where they'd go because they know they can't fit under Nick Politis' sombrero at the Roosters because that's full of a block of cheese.
Yes, that is true.
But yeah, Parramatta, I think the big question will be Josh Hodgson. I mean, everyone's seen the photos from pre-season looking ripped as buggery.
Oh, bloody oath he is. He just needs to stay fit for the entire season. That's the big thing that he'll be targeting to stay for this season, as well as
going past one game.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
I think that'd be the ultimate achievement, just playing more than one premiership game this year. Now, interesting paradox we've got ourselves right here. Melbourne, under Craig Bellamy, have not lost a round one game. Going all the way back to 2003, they have won 19 straight.
But Parramatta have made CommBank a fortress.
And that's the paradox I was getting into. They are 1 from 4 when playing at CommBank. They have not beaten the Eels in 3 visits to this ground. The only win they do have was against the West Tigers.
So it's a very, very bogey ground for the Storm.
But not only bogey ground, the Eels also have a strong recent record against Melbourne as well.
True.
Only 2 losses in the last 3 years is the Storm have conceded against Parramatta. That, of course, the 2019 semi-final and the 2020 qualifying final. The only last 2 losses in 3 years they've suffered. Because other than that, Parramatta have beaten them at Suncorp, in Melbourne, of all places.
Which is rare.
And at home as well, in very close circumstances.
Very true. So, yeah, it's a very hard one to get predictions right for this one because of what we just mentioned. Parramatta, CommBank a fortress. Melbourne, not a very good record there. It's so hard, this one, but it's going to be absolutely.
The real question is, Melbourne going for 20 straight round 1 wins. Parramatta looking to be the first team to buck that trend on the Craig Bellamy's watch.
I don't know if they can do it or not. It's one part of me says yes, they can, but the other part says no. It's just what one you want to go with.
Oh, believe me, I have that same dilemma. But I think if the Eels are to win, they'll be hungry to try and get back into the grand final. Amongst themselves, they'll be thinking, we know what it takes to get to the grand final. Let's try and go out there, make a statement, and try and get back there again.
But they'll be wanting to know what Mitch Moses is doing too for next year. He's still off contract, hasn't re-signed as of yet. There was talks about it happening, end of last week, never happened.
It could still happen this week. Before kickoff, it could still happen.
Maybe it could be a game day special news.
More than likely, I'd think that it'd be a double boost. You get ready by lunchtime, you break the news, and then you sell out CommBank by kickoff. So it would work, but it could also backfire.
True.
But on the balance of the team sheet alone, I think even without Marnie, without Papali'i, without Madison in there, because apparently he decided dining out with the judiciary was more important than a $4,000 fine.
Yes.
I think the forward pack is still big enough for the Eels to out-monster Melbourne. And I think they have really gotten to Melbourne in particular. They know how to contain them. I think Munster and Hughes are not going to have much time and space and possession because they're going to be more dominated through the middle of the field. Close game, but I'm going to back the Eels, big guns in the forward pack to get them home. Tight margin, 1-6.
Look, I'm going to agree with you. Back at the Parramatta Eels. Just purely in a record at CommBank. And their pack compared to Melbourne's and the rate that Josh Hodgson has been looking in pre-season, he's going to be in for a big year if he's fit and firing. So I'm going to say Parramatta win this one 7-12.
You're going for a bigger win. 2 tries in it, you reckon?
Yeah. Look, I want a close game like what you said, 1-6, but Melbourne's record at CommBank isn't the best. So that's going to
like I said, this will be their 5th trip to CommBank and 4th up against the Eels. Currently none from 3, like I said previously.
Yeah. That's got to... it will be none from 4.
Or at least we hope it's going to be none from 4, or for our sake. Now, moving on, we are down at Sky Stadium, Wellington, New Zealand for the second clash. Ashton, your first of your Friday night. The Warriors up against the Newcastle Knights. New recruit Lachlan Miller lining up at the back very late in the piece. On the flanks, it is Heimel Hunt making a comeback with Dominic Young on the other side. The centres, Inari Tuala and Bradman Best. As that's not going to Bradbury a lot of us. In the halves, it is the captain, much maligned, $9 million man Kalen Ponga with new halfback Jackson Hastings.
So pretty much a whole new halves combination there.
In the forwards, we've got Kurt Mann locking down the scrum with Tyson Purcell and Lachlan Fitzgibbon on the second row edge. And up front, it's Daniel Saifiti, Jaden Brayley, and Jacob Saifiti. Talk about the Brayley and the Saifiti sandwich, am I right?
I reckon.
And off the bench, Phoenix Crossland, Adam Elliott, Jack Hetherington, and Leo Thompson, coached by Adam O'Brien.
For the home side, we've got a new fullback here for Chancellor Cook side, with the winners being Dallin Wateni-Zelezniak and Marcel Montoya. The centres, Braden Williami gets a nod for Andrew Webster, with Adam Pompey in the other side of the park. The halves are Tamare Martin and Sean Johnson, with the back row looking like Tohu Harris, Jackson Ford, and Marata Niokore, with the up front looking like Adam Fanua Brake, Wade Egan, and Mitch Barnett. The bench is Dylan Walker, Bunty Afala, Josh Curran, Tom Ale, 18th Viliami Valia, coached Andrew Webster.
So here we go. Adam O'Brien, what is this? His 4th season now in charge?
I believe so. But they haven't been very successful seasons.
Well, the way you think about it is, he got Newcastle scraped into the top 8
Once.
in seasons 1 and 2.
But since then, it's been downhill.
Yeah, big mistake letting Mitchell Pearce go.
Yes.
And it showed last year. This year, he's done good. Well, sort of done good, depending how many swap deals you want to look at with Newcastle.
I believe there's been 2 so far.
3.
3, sorry.
But on the whole, he has done very good to get Jackson Hastings to Newcastle. I think it is a very smart move and potentially one that the Tigers will regret.
Well, even Adam Elliott coming to Newcastle, that was a pretty good, what do you call it?
Package deal regarding their NRLW captain, Millie Boyle,
True.
if she will stay at the club going forward, which more than likely she probably will.
Luring Adam Elliott away from Canberra, he had a pretty solid season last season, but luring him away from that's pretty solid effort as well.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that. Of course, with Newcastle, it's always going to be the big thing. And he's always the talking points, Kalen Ponga.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The captain, the $1 million plus man.
The non-5'8".
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. He is not a 5'8", yet they're thinking, we've got to stop him getting concussed every other week, so we're going to put him in the halves, but he can't play like a 5'8". He's not Cody Walker. He's not Jack White, and he's not even Dylan Brown.
No. And we've seen like other players, like Cam Munster, play at fullback, then transition into 5'8" very well.
Yeah, he's not Munster. He's not. No way is he Munster.
Well, even Jerome Hughes, he was a
fullback turned halfback.
Stage. Yeah, exactly.
Craig Bellamy manufacturing 2 halfbacks throughout his whole career. Yeah.
But this is not going to work. That's what they're trying to do. It's not going to work.
But at the same time, his opposite, its halfback, is Sean Johnson. And to be fair to say, he did not do any degree of difference for the Warriors. It was practically programming resumed as normal when he returned to the Warriors.
Pretty much, but when he left the Warriors the first time, he was going pretty solid for it. Come to the Sharks, he had a few good games here and there, but since he's gone back, he just hasn't really been himself, really.
Well, I think many would argue he didn't really play that well at the Sharks. He was just there in a good post-premiership team, and things started falling around with the coaches when the axes were coming out.
Yeah. Like I said, he wasn't brilliant at the Sharks, but that's when it kind of started going
considering
downhill.
the fact you take Sean Johnson out of the Warriors post-2018 when they actually did make the finals under him, which was practically, only the second time in 6 years since he debuted that the Warriors had made the finals.
Yeah. And
you stick him in a very reasonable Cronulla side, he was always going to look better playing with the Sharks.
Of course. And he's gone back over there and hasn't done much at all.
But other than that, I do rate the rest of the Warriors' spine. I think Nickel Klukstad, he had a lot of trouble with injury. Mainly he had that neck problem that kept him out for the longest period of time. Of course, Tamare Martin, wonderful success Ori and Wade Egan, I'd have to say the underrated man in this spine for the Warriors.
I had to say that. He's coming out from the Panthers system, last year, I believe? And
Yeah, he's been out of the Warriors for a couple more years than that.
yeah, no, but he's still been coming out of the Panthers system. Like, he was just starting to get up more regular-ish game time off the bench. And he said, no, I want to be the starting dummy half. I'll go over to New Zealand, and that's where he's been ever since.
Yeah, that's
Which hasn't been a bad signing from the Warriors over the last few years, but he's got more potential, and so does the side, but they just can't do it for some unknown reason.
Yeah, that's usually the interesting mystery of the Warriors. They could have literally half the Kiwis test side in there, and yet still they'll be left scratching their heads as to why they aren't playing more finals than what they could probably be with this sleeping giant of New Zealand Rugby League right here.
Exactly.
Forward packs are pretty much even, I'd have to say at this point. I think there's some very dynamic forwards in here. Of course, you got Fanua Blake, Tohu Harris as the captain. They could probably play 80 minutes if required to, easily.
Yeah.
And then I think you could build a solid pack around. And then Dylan Walker as well. Would you expect front row or lock forward when he comes on?
Don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens, really. I'd say maybe front row to start off with. Then he might do a lock forward every now and again.
But the big thing for me is, are the Warriors trying to set this up for an ambush? Because this is going to be their first full season where they actually have a full host of home games in New Zealand, though we have argued in the past that they should have the whole season in New Zealand. Just don't even bother leaving Australia once. Just, they come to you if they want on you to travel away.
And not just at one ground in New Zealand, across all New Zealand.
The whole country. The whole country.
Christchurch, where they had the All-Stars match, the regular home, Eden Park, and all the likes. Forsyth Bar Stadium.
I honestly think the NRL have dropped the ball all in. I think they had the opportunity to arrange things where they could buy home games from the clubs and sell them to towns up and down the whole length and breadth of New Zealand, from north to the South Island, and really spread the good gospel of rugby league. But I think it's a missed opportunity that the Warriors don't get to spend a full all year back home.
Yeah, but we can't do much about it, can't we?
No, we can't.
We can only comment our opinions on it.
Yeah, that's exactly the right case. Yeah, but other than that, interesting selection choice. Braden Williami, coming back from Union of all things. How do you think he's going to readapt now that he's back, especially with the rebalance 6 again rule we've got here?
Well, there is a slight difference between Union and League.
Slight?
Okay, massive difference there.
Thank you.
Sorry. So it might take a week or two, maybe 3, to get used to it again. Especially, like you said, the 6 again rules and the captain's challenge been introduced while he was away. But it might be a bit rusty to start off with.
Yeah, but I mean, first time head coach versus a coach who previously bragged about being in 4 grand finals.
Yes.
I don't really see an ambush here on the cards. I think if Brayley can get at the forwards rolling early, I think you'll get Hastings rolling off the back of that, and I think they'll just be able to contain the Warriors for this one. Is because there's some big forwards in that Warriors pack, but if you can control all the game, you will win that, and I think that's what Hastings will do. He'll get Adam off to a good start. I think Newcastle win this one 1-6 on probably what's going to be a very hostile environment.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm actually going to go in favour of the home side. I think Tamara Martin will take a lot of control of the kick in, let Sean Johnson run the ball, and Kluksad will have a crack overnight. So Warriors 1-6.
Yeah, hopefully he will get a good view of the ground, but I'm afraid you're going to be rolling around a little bit too much down at the Cake Tin in Wellington.
That's pretty much what they call
now,
it.
for Channel 9's primetime Friday night event. It is the defending premiers, the Panthers, up against the Brisbane Broncos.
For the Broncos, we have got Selwyn Cobber at fullback, with the winners being Corey Oates and Jesse Arthurs, the centres, Katoni Staggs and Herbie Farnworth. Halves of Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds. The back row looking like Pat Carrigan, Kurt Capewell, Jordan Rickey. Front row, Corey Jensen, Billy Walters and Payne Haas. Bench, Corey Pakes, Keenan Palacia, Tom Flegler, Martin DePauw. 18th man, Dean Marina. I'll spit it out right. Dane Mariner, sorry. Coach Kevin Walters.
And that is the Brisbane Broncos right there. Now the defending premiers shooting for a 40-year first. Dylan Edwards returns at fullback for the Panthers. Young Fijian international Sania Taruva will start on the left wing. Brian To'o over on the right. In the centres, it is Isaac Targo and Stephen Crichton. In the half of Jerome Luai at 5'8", and the co-captain Nathan Cleary at halfback. And in the forwards, it's the other co-captain Isaiah Lowe locking down the scrum with a new look second row. Luke Garner with Liam Martin back from injury, having missed out on the World Club Challenge. And up front, Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, and James Fisher-Harris. And off the bench, and Tongan international Sony Luke, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Lenu, and Jamin Salmon, coached by Ivan Cleary.
Look, Penrith are pretty much all but unchanged from last season. Minus a few here and there without Coruscant and Kickow and that, but they're pretty much unchanged.
Well, it's pretty much a major readjustment for what the Panthers have got. They lost what has been described in regards to Kickow as one of the best edge back rowers in the game. I think that's a little bit of a stretch at this point, but he is.
I don't know, but he's close to it though.
He is no doubt was the Panthers' enforcer and big game specialist when needed. And Api Coruscant, his drive and leg speed out of dummy half that got those big boys in the pack rolling. They will ultimately miss his creativity, and really what was argued listening to others commentate about this, when he came off the bench and he just changed the dynamic of the game completely. Like, they could start Mitch Kenny in, say, the prelim final, South get out to a 12-0 lead, Coruscant comes on, and then all of a sudden the momentum swings things the Mountain Men's
like
way.
that in State of Origin too, when he was coming off the bench and placing Damien Cook from dummy half. It's just got it's probably the creativity of him, and he's quick on his feet too. But the player I want to say have a really good crack at first grade coming off the bench is Sonny Luke. Everyone's giving him raps.
Yeah, I think we've all heard the roots about Sony Luke and Sinea Taruva as well. I was very impressed by Taruva playing for Fiji at the World Cup, and of course that mid-year test they played against Papua New Guinea. He looked very good. Yes. It's like there were massive raps on him too, and then you watched it, and it's like, yeah, I completely buy that. Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
Rather unfortunate that his opportunity does come at the expense of Taylor May, who unfortunately did his ACL due to a hip drop tackle in the World Club Challenge loss to St Helens.
Yeah. Well, he was going to be missing the first few weeks anyway due to suspension. But
now that's practically backdated until 2024 now, which is sort of a bummer.
Well, they should have done it at the back end of last year and it would have been right.
Well, he wouldn't know he was going to be ruled out for all of this.
Yes, I know that, but then if he happened to get injured like he has, when he had to get backtracked to next year, it would have been already been done with, and could have come back round one next year perfectly fine. But anyway,
yeah, sure would have, could have.
Penrith
now this is going to be the real interesting one, because with the Broncos at the moment, there are two players in there that we both know aren't going to be either next year. The big ones. Herbie Farnworth for one, and Tom Flegler the other, both signing with the Dolphins for next year.
Yes, we kind of didn't expect this one coming, did we not?
Well, the last word I heard was that Herbie Farnworth was going to sign a contract extension to stay with the Broncos at least until 2025.
That's what I heard
whilst
too.
There were massive money offers from Sydney clubs going after Tom Flegler, I think. The Dogs were mentioned, the Roosters were mentioned.
I was going to say, I thought I heard him linked with the Roosters.
The Dragons might have been mentioned, but they'd be crazy.
No, he's just too young for our squad.
Oh, yeah, that's right. If he was 35, was playing on one leg, busted, and had a rap sheet as long as Talatala Monet with a hammer, then I probably think we could see where that one's going.
Yes.
But, yeah, that's rather surprising. Usually it is with the Broncos. They don't let players go they want to keep. Do you believe salary cap pressure, or do you think Wayne finally got underneath the Brisbane skin in the start poaching more players of higher value?
It could be a combination of both, to be quite honest. They're trying to also keep big players like Aaron Reynolds and on big dollars and that.
Well, Reynolds was already on the big dollars. It was Katoni Staggs that was the big worry.
That's the one I was thinking of. But also Wayne Bennett getting underneath his skin of the Brisbane Broncos saying, hey, can I poach him and him? Yep, here you go.
Well, it sort of is like that. It's sort of like a get square, because it was just like when Reece Walsh came up on the market, it was just like, hey, Reece, you want to come play with the Dolphins? And then the Broncos was coming to us like, no. Oh, we forbid you to negotiate with the Dolphins. You're coming back to us. That is basically what the Broncos did. They were like,
pretty much,
you can negotiate with anyone you want. Just don't talk to Wayne over there. Just like, don't talk to Wayne.
But that's really, in a way, unfair, to be quite honest.
Is it though? I mean, clauses. I don't know how the contract was written. I've heard there was clauses in the contract that if he broke it, he couldn't go and talk to Wayne Bennett about joining the Dolphins.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't know if that was the case. I did hear it, and I can always double check it later on. But we all know the Dolphins, as some bigger platforms and the broadcast media itself would want you to believe, the Dolphins were struggling to recruit big players. Well, here you go. England International and a Queensland Origin forward. Is that big enough signings for you? And they're getting a jump start on their 2024 recruitment drive as well.
I was going to say, well, it's not more likely to send out marquee players to start for the first ever season. But hey, 2024,
patience. This is why they brought Wayne Bennett in. They knew this would probably happen, and that the 16 clubs would be aware what Wayne Bennett would try and do with negotiations to try and land the biggest names in the game. So they rushed as fast as they could to lock him up. They didn't think about 2024. They knew 2024 would come round, but now Wayne's starting to get at the long-term plan into overdrive. He's already got Farnworth and Flagler, who are more than likely going to be walk-ins guaranteed by round one next year. But that's neither here or there. But that is a good start for the Dolphins. The patient game where it's finally paid off with two major scalps already.
And you also got like a Premiership winning assistant coach as well, and Christian Wolf. So very experienced at coach level.
But see, the stars are coming. England International and Herbie Farnworth, Queensland Origin Ford and Tom Flagler.
Plus they've already got Kangaroos and Queensland rep in Felice Kafusi.
And they've also got the incumbent Kiwi test forward pack as well.
Yes.
Also, they're starting to build, like I said, 2023 is going to be all about winning games. Just building a solid roster to start and then recruiting the big guns later on down the track. And they've already started on that. So that's good news for them. It's going to be interesting to see how Selwyn Cobbo plays at fullback. Just in the interim.
Yeah, while Reece Walsh is out. They did trial him at fullback a few games last year and he didn't go not too bad. But coming against Nathan Cleary's bomb kicks, that's going to be a massive test for him.
Yeah, I definitely think that'll be a major test. And after going down in the World Club Challenge in the fashion they did, I think you'll expect to see a big game, not out of Stephen Crichton, but out of Nathan Cleary. And it was just unfortunate that the Broncos would be the round one opponent. I'm backing the Premiers to get their campaign off to a good start. 7-12 win for the Mountain Men.
I have to agree with you, but I'm going to say a 1-6 margin. It's going to be a close game. I think Adam Reynolds will really want to really control the Broncos and try and swing the game back in their favour, unless they keep, what's his name, Haas out of trouble, getting penalised all the time. Well, he's getting better. But the big one off the bench for me for Brisbane will be Mark DePauw. How well he have a bigger of an impact. But I think when I bring Sonny Luke in, if Penrith haven't got it going their way, they'll bring Sonny Luke in, and I think he will turn the game into the favour of Panthers.
So you're backing Luke as basically a younger version of what Appy Coruscant was.
For this game, yes. See how it goes, and I might change my opinion later on.
Well, we'll see how that one...
But yeah, I'm going to say Penrith 1-6.
Well, we'll see how that one pans out, but either way, the Premiers to get their defence off to a good start. Now, first of the Super Saturday fixtures sees the Manly Seagulls up against the Canterbury Bulldogs. Well, this is going to get interesting very fast. Lining up for the Dogs at fullback, the surprise of left field no one saw coming, Hayes Perham. And fresh recruit from the Parramatta Eels coming in at the back. On the flanks, it is Jacob Carraz lining up on the right, and the Fox, Josh Adokar on the left. In the centres, it is Jake Avarillo and big centre Paul Alamotti, beginning his first grade debut, but already all the raps in the world. In the halves, it is co-captain Matt Burton and Kyle Flack. And again, at half-back, in the forwards, New Brown will line up at lock forward with no Luke Thompson due to a rolled ankle. And up front, in the second row, it is Viliami Kikau and the club captain, Raymond Faitala Mariner. And up front, Max King, the other co-captain, Reid Marnie, and English international Ryan Sutton. And off the bench, Jaden Tanner, Corey Waddell, Big Frank Pele, and debutant on former Roosters and Norths back rower Jacob Preston, their coach, first-timer, full-time, Cameron Ciraldo.
As for the homeside Manly Seagulls, big news that Tom Tavorovic is back at fullback. So big inclusion there. The winners being Kristen Tuipulotu and Ruben Garrick with Brad Parker and Tolu Kolas, thank you. In the other centres, the halves of Cooper Johns and Daly Cherry Evans. The back row with Sean Cappy, Olakuatu and Kelma Tuolagi. And Tanner Paseka, Lockie Croker and Jake Javorovic is up front with Weeks, Ben Javorovic, Ethan Bullimore and Josh Aloye on the bench and Sipley as 18th man. Coached by the returning full-time coach in Anthony Seibold.
Ciraldo versus Seibold. This is going to get very interesting because, of course, we know Cameron Ciraldo has had a couple of games at first grade under his belt after Anthony Griffin got hooked by the former general manager out at Penrith. Take a good guess who that is.
Feel good.
Yeah, the current general manager, but the Dogs. So,
yeah.
History repeating itself. I just probably want to keep an eye on my back right there.
Also, Ciraldo, he's been underneath Ivan Cleary, who's a, two-time premiership winner.
Two-time premiership winning.
He's got the experience. Whenever there was other coaches getting sacked throughout the last few years, Ciraldo's name was always thrown first. But he always knocked them back. But this is the right opportunity.
Well, there's a lot of talk about which opportunity was the right one for him because... Of course, you know as well as I, with Canterbury, there was always an expectation of, can we get back into the finals? Are we going to get to our 9th premiership before Manly are?
I say so.
And I don't want this to be yet another scenario where we were staring at literally a third false dawn in a row. We thought things would turn around under Dean Pay. Of course, they didn't.
No.
Then we were convinced Trent Barrett was the answer.
No.
Until he wasn't. So is it going to be 3 in a row since sacking Des Hasler all the way back in 2017? Do things finally look up for the Bulldogs?
I say definitely yes. They've got a team there. They're building to something big as well. But how will Anthony Seibold go after being a few years out? He had an awesome start with his South Sydney career. And then...
Key words. South Sydney. Who was in that team? In 2018.
Yes, and I had Adam Reynolds, Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell,
Greg Inglis, Sam Burgess.
Yes. Yeah. Then went to Brisbane and it wasn't so well.
Yeah, things fell apart at the Broncos far faster than the Tigers' finals appearances.
But in saying that, Seibold has got them off to a good start, winning the pre-season challenge and an extra 100 grand.
It's a season. I know,
I know
the
that.
NRL are looking to try and make the preseason mean something, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. Just me.
Hey, give
it's
him
more
credit for
competitive game
trying.
time. But it's like, they were de facto winners because of the fact the Sharks didn't have as many offloads as Manly did, and
By one.
And then you had St. Helens and not really getting close enough to either of those measurable bonus points, means to secure or the $100,000 cash prize. And many could argue there have been pre-season tournaments with more significance than what we've had here.
That's probably true, but it was something different. Have to give credit to the NRL for trying, but to do it without Tommy Todorovic, that's a pretty solid effort. Is this a team that if Tommy Turbo does go down, can they still do it?
Well, that's the question, because you've had Seabold jump from league after he got sacked by the Broncos. He worked under Eddie Jones with the English rugby union side, and I think they actually went pretty well at the helm. And then he's got this opportunity. Asler didn't find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so they brought Anthony Seabold in. But is it really the answer because of Seabold's reputation, of how things fell to shit at the Broncos, to go into this Manly side, also very, very proud club that's just had a shit off season because of the rainbow that killed Hasler? Are you certain it's going to be an immediate turnaround, even with Tom Trbojevic hopefully shifting his technique with his running game to avoid doing his hamstring consistently?
Look, I don't think it'll be a turnaround like the click of fingers straight away. You have to get into a rhythm. They have to get used to what his coaching style is like. But the pace of the competition is going to be like for this season, because it's going to be a lot quicker again, I think, than what it was years gone by.
I will say, in his defense, as previously serving as Manly assistant coach, he will reconnect and have good backers as in the Trbojevic brothers, mainly Tom and Jake, and Cherry Evans. There is that upside that he has had players, he has been in the Manly system during his time there, so it's not exactly walking into a foreign environment. It's just he's back in a familiar one with the top job and clipboard.
Exactly. But the surprise for me of the naming in the Manly side is Cooper Johns.
Well, with Josh Schuster ruled out for round one, I think Johns was looking for a fresh start, closer to family and friends and all that. Probably not all closer to all family, because we don't want on him ending up somewhere in Bondi. Andrew Johns half passed out with a surfboard, or halfway to God knows where. Halfway to God knows where.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's a bit of a surprise to see how well it goes. Learning from Cherry Evans as well. But we haven't spoken much about the Bulldogs, but they've got a stacked side whatsoever. And your favourite man still gets a nod off the bench.
How does Corey Waddell get the nod again? I mean, seriously. Just like, how many times have we talked about Corey Waddell before? It's not funny. It's just like...
You probably would have thrown Jackson Torpenny in there.
I would have thrown Torpenny in there in a heartbeat. Just like anyone, literally, even Josh Reynolds. I wouldn't mind actually having two utilities on the bench if it meant not having Corey Waddell there. Just like, why is everyone persisting with him at this point?
Ladies and gentlemen, Connor's prediction for the Bulldogs' best player of the year, Corey Waddell.
Oh, get lost. No, absolutely not.
He's your favourite player.
But good news is, I think there's a good support cast for both Burton and Addo-Carr, because they can't carry the side on their own, even though they were practically leading the way for tries, goals, and try assists.
Yep.
It's all up. But I think...
They got Reid Marnie there now at kick out, which really helps too.
I think it's a much more competitive forward pack than what it might have been 6 years ago, really. But, no, 5 years ago, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't really many options with that pack 5 years ago. Now, we got an enforcer back row and Viliami kick out. Probably the best hooker we've had since Michael Ennis. This, of course...
That's a big call, but I can see where you're coming from with it, eh?
Well, considering we've only had Michael Leisha, we made Jeremy Marshall-King into a Kiwi tester.
And now he's buggered off to the Dolphins.
Signed up with the Dolphins.
Yes.
But I think there is some potential in this side, and I would really like to see this potential fully fleshed out going forward. I think just building off the back, considering we last played Manly in round 25 last year, now we've got to face them again. This time, Tom Trbojevic at the helm. I think it's good we're getting them this early because Turbo's probably not going to be 100%.
No.
And match fitness wise, this would be the good trying to get Manly at Brookie. I'm going to go the Bulldogs. A narrow 1-6 win. I think Matt Burton will pull the strings on this one, and a couple of Burton bombs will go a long way to securing that dub first up.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go this one in heavily favour the Bulldogs in this one. I'm going to say 13 plus. Whatever new
13 to 20.
13 to 20.
What we're working with now.
Yeah, 13 to 20 favour the Bulldogs. I think, yes, Tom Trbojevic is in there and that, but he's going to be a bit rusty. He hasn't played many games over the last few seasons because of injury, so I reckon Bulldogs will get up big in this one.
Now moving a bit further north, we have the Cowboys up against the Canberra Raiders. What do the Green Machine look like? Well, take it away.
They have got a surprise fullback option is Sebastian Cruz, with the winners being Nick Kotrich and Jordan Rapidon, with the centres being Matt Tomoko and Harley Smith-Shields. The halves is Jack White and Jamal Fogarty. Let's hope they're a full season together. The back row got Corey Hawera, Nora, Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead, with Pasami Solo, Danny Levi getting a nod, and Joseph Tarpany up front, with the bench being Tom Starling, Atta Mia Rota, Corey Horsburgh, and Regula, with Albert Hopawati, the 18th man, coached by none other than Ricky Sticky Stewart.
Meanwhile, for the Cowboys, Scott Drinkwater once again and takes his place at fullback. He is flanked on the outside by both Kyle Felt and Murray Taulagi. A little bit closer in the centres, it is Valentine Holmes and Peter Hiku. Who in the halves, it is Tom Dearden and one co-captain in Chad Townsend at halfback. In the forwards, it's the other co-captain, Jason Taumalolo at lock forward, with his back rows of Cohen Hess and Jeremiah Nane. And up front, it is Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, and Ruben Cotter, with probably, would you say, the worst or the best-looking mullet in the game?
I don't know, depending on who you ask.
And off the bench, it is Jake Granville, Griffin Neem, Jermaine Tanoa-Brown, and former 2015 Premiership winning front rower James Tarmo getting the nod off the bench. And they're coached by Todd Payton,
who has recently re-signed until the end of 2026 as the Cowboys coach, which is a very good signing indeed.
I think it's a ringing endorsement that in his second year, the Cowboys probably played their best since
the grand final.
JT was there in the mid-2010s. Honestly, the best period they have ever played. I mean, the top three finish, prelim finals berth, a massive turnaround, a real success story
compared to his
for the North Queensland Cowboys.
Compared to his first year at the Cowboys, were near the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, but a massive turnaround. I'm real surprised as well. I'm just double checking to see what the hell's going on. As it turns out, there is no Josh Papali'i due to a calf injury. So that's a real big loss for the Raiders right there. That
it is
genuine 1-2 punch combo. Papali'i, Joe Tarpany, he really getting Canberra's go forward.
But another one that you said off air was surprised was no Zach Wolford at all in the side. He's in jersey number 20 in the reserves. Now, you thought he was going to be the starting dummy half.
I did. I honestly thought Wolford would start because he just worked. He was the third string hooker. Then it went to Brisbane and Magic Round and was just like, yep, you're the number 9 at the Raiders now. Oh, Mr. Wolford, how do you feel? And it's just like, that is the way Ricky played it after that. Wolford starts, Starling off the bench, and now you got Danny Levi coming in after spending some time with Huddersfield, and it's just like, now you've just got two hookers who just play the same game.
Yeah. But yeah, Tommy Starling come off the bench and Danny Levi starting.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Levi's had a good stint with the Giants. There's no
He did have a very good stint with the Giants. And I think even in pre-season he had a very solid pre-season as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a surprise
about that, but I think it's a real shame as well. I mean, 3 hookers don't go into 2 spots unless one of them was willing to risk more injury by playing out of position.
Yeah. Maybe there's a method to the madness.
Well, there is a lot of madness with Ricky Stewart
Oh, yes, there is.
when there's no weak-gutted dogs to kick around.
But yeah, like I said, another surprise is Sebastian Chris at fullback instead of Jordan Rapana. And no Jared Croker again.
Well, I think Croker was always going to be racing the clock to be fit for round one, and even if he was fit, I think you look at it in of itself. You've got Matt Timoko on one side, on the right-hand side, and then you got Sebastian Chris, who, if everyone was together, Chris would be in the left centre role where Croker normally would be, and I just think he'd miss out. And he's only 8 games short of 300, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he would have racked up his 300th game last year easy.
And he's got to chase down on the all-time appearance list, Jason Croker, 318, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
I believe so. And is he close to cracking a certain amount of points as well?
I thought he already had the points record. It's just the number of appearances to become Canberra's longest-serving player.
It might be a bit short of the record, I don't know, but...
But the 300 club, it is a definite.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I hope he does it this year. He should have got it last year.
If he can get into the side. That's
I
going to
reckon
be
he should
the
have got
big
last year.
question.
Like, he was having such a good career up until this point, and then he's just... Injuries over the last years have cost him big time.
But
He was in talks with the Blues a few years ago. And now it's... No chance.
Well, I think many could argue he was probably never going to play Origin in for New South Wales, even though he's one of those underrated centres that you'd actually want to have play for the Blues.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, he was playing in an era where you had Josh Dugan, Josh Morris, Jared Hayne, Michael Jennings, all vying for a spot in the New South Wales centre position.
True.
And then you throw in, as of later, Latrell Mitchell, Tom Trebojevic, Ichka Tony Stagg, Stephen Crichton. He's fallen a little bit down the pecking order, if you ask me.
Just a little bit there.
And what I mean by little, I mean he is basically dropped. He's gotten snubbed faster than Freddie can do it to Josh Adokar. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, that is pretty fast. But yeah, this is... I mean, I don't mind a Canberra lineup, but I think the Cowboys will be a bit too strong for this one.
Look, we've seen what the Cowboys can do. Once they get their bench going into this game as well, they can swing the momentum back into their favor big time. Of course, Luciano Leilua, the big absence, considering he's stood down because of the accusations currently levied against him, and that won't be heard until really halfway through the season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how Cohen Hest readapts to life as an edge forward. Of course, he probably made the best career move moving from the edge to the middle of the field, but always good to have those skills there. But no, this is a very impressive North Queensland lineup. Always a concern about the second-year syndrome for a lot of players. Nane, a big concern. Tom Dearden also in there, but I don't think this will happen for the Cowboys. I don't think there is any real second-year syndrome concerns. I think the Cowboys, always through their forward pack alone, will be strong enough to down the green machine in round one. I think the Raiders win this 13-20.
Ooh, I'm going to say the home side win this one 13-20. I just think that Dearden and Townsend and I will keep the ball rolling with Bower Holmes, continuing his strong goal kicking game, and Scott Drinkwater tearing it up at the back. I
think outside of Penrith, this Cowboys side is probably one of the most complete lineups in the NRL going round at the moment.
That's a big call, but it's probably true.
I'm not lying though.
I know you're not lying though.
There's no real weakness. Well, I mean there is a weakness. Of course.
Every side has a weakness. Like even Penrith has a weakness, for crying out loud, but we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be called Hangover very soon. And finally, wrapping off Super Saturday, we are down at PointsBet Stadium, Cronulla, for the Sharks up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs rocking it pretty strong as well. Latrell Mitchell lining up at full back this time, making a start to the season. Alex Johnston, the two-time Ken Irvine medalist, lining up on one side, and his other winger accompanying him is Isaac Thompson. Closer into the centres, it is Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham, the halves. for the second season running of Cody Walker and Lachlan Ilias. In the forwards, it is the skipper Cameron Murray locking down the scrum with Keon Kolonamatangi and Jai Arrow, the back rowers. And up front, it is Junior Totola, Damien Cook and Tom Burgess. And off the bench, Blake Taft, Michael Cheekham, Davey Moali, and Shaq Mitchell in the house. And their coach for the second year running, Jason Demetrio.
As for the Sharks, Will Kennedy is at fullback with Sione Katoa and Ronaldo Mulatala, the winners. Jesse Ramian, who has not long re-signed for the Sharks for another few seasons, which is good news for them. Also Talakai again with Matt Moylan and Braden Trindle at halfback with Nico Hines out with a calf injury, I believe. With the lock forward now being locked out by Dale Finucane. Alongside him is Britton Niokora and Teague Wilton. With the forwards looking like Toby Rudolph, Blake Brayley and Braden Hammond-Willie. The bench, Cam McInnes, Wade Graham, Oregon Kafusi, Jack Williams and Connor Tracy's 18th man, coached by Craig Fitzgibbon.
Yep, that's right.
I nearly said
Connor Tracy, 18th man again. Remember 2 years ago when this bloke could literally just play anywhere in the Sharks side and it was just like, how? He's just there again. Just like, you looked away for 1 week and it's like, oh, yep, here's Connor Tracy again. It's just like, this bloke could not stop getting selected. He was always getting picked somewhere out of necessity. But now that the Sharks have got their back five settled, it's just like, oh.
Well, I was going to say, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth there. With Talakai getting settled in the centres, Tracy kind of misses out. Because otherwise, if Talakai wasn't there, Connor Tracy would have been definitely in the centres, hands down, no arguments.
This game has swung very much one way since the recent news that Nico Hines was ruled out with a calf injury.
And that was only earlier today, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened here.
I think it was like 2 hours before the team lists come out officially, so...
It's a big blow for Cronulla because they really flourished with Hines. A bargain rate halfback at a bargain price picked up $450,000 a year ain't too shabby you're literally coming in as a backup fullback.
Yeah, he's now the mainstay halfback and probably worth 800 mil. 800 mil.
800 mil.
Wow. 800.
I'm pretty sure Craig Fitzgibbon does not have a piece of the sombrero he can fit over the Sutherland Shire to afford Nico Hines. But genuinely, I think at this rate, in a short space of time, Hines has made himself a fan favourite down at the Shire.
Oh, bloody oath he has.
And I think the word is lifetime deal. I think potentially wants to retire as a Shark. So that could have been... I mean, that was probably the most consequential signing the Sharks have made in recent years. More consequential than James Maloney, I reckon.
Yeah. But Maloney
that's saying a lot, though.
Yeah, no, but Maloney's getting the end of his career. Nico Hines still got plenty of years left.
Well, Maloney was at the back end of his career to a certain extent, but he also came through and won Cronulla their first premiership.
That is true.
He was a big reason that he's now a big part of the Sharks folklore as well.
I'm going to say a statement now. Next 3 years, Sharks will win a grand final.
Yeah,
3 years.
I could probably see the Sharks premiership window is firmly open at this point, but they need, like we said, they need to overcome their semi-finals upset against South Sydney, who they face in back-to-back fixtures.
Yeah. And I think the last time these two played was an absolute cracker of a
regular season meeting. The last regular season meeting, it went to Golden Point. Tom Burgess got sent off, and Hines was the match winner. But I just think now looking at these lineups, it's just... I'm looking at sort of like gelling halves consistency. And I think Walker and Ilias already have a running head start with the gel factor. I'm looking at this. They got, on one side, they got Latrell Mitchell floating out the back. They got Alex Johnson out to the left wing. Then you got Cook and Murray causing havoc with the fast go forward or in the middle of the field. And I think if Hines was there, this could have got interesting. But Hines is a big out, as I've said. And I think this heavily leans into South Sydney's favour. 7 in points to 12. I think the Rabbitohs pick up their first win of the year down in the Sutherland Shire.
I'm gonna still go to the home side in Sharks, and say 1-6. If Nico Hines there, probably would have said 7-12, but I'm gonna say it's gonna crack a game. Look, I'm gonna say this one's gonna go to Golden Point. First Golden Point game of the season will be this one right here.
So you think the Sharks and the Rabbitohs are gonna go to Golden Point again?
First Golden Point game of 2023 will be this matchup right here.
All right, that's a big
am I going to say slot the field goal to win it? Matt Moylan to slot the field goal.
So you reckon Matt Moylan's going to take charge here? All right, we'll see how correct you are in about 5 days' time or thereabouts.
Yes.
Now, the biggest fixture of the round to this point, of course, or what could be bigger than a new team and a new age in the National Rugby League. The Arthur Beetson Cup between the unknown whereabouts Dolphins and the Sydney Roosters.
Yes. For the Dolphins, we have got... Dolphins, wow. For the Roosters...
Yeah, we'll go to the cognitive test. I've got a HIA right here.
Failed. We have got James Tedesco...
So that means I have to kick you out for the next 2 weeks at least?
Yes.
Yay!
You're doing it solo, though.
Makes my job easier.
We've got James Tedesco at fullback and captain with Daniel Tupou and Jackson Polo on the wings with Joseph Suali'i and Corey Allen in the centres. Luke Carey and Sam Walker yet again in the halves. Victor Radley at lock with Egan Butcher and Nat Butcher alongside each other in the second row. The forwards, we've got Lindsay Collins, Cheese, Brandon Smith and Matt Lodge with the bench looking like Drew Hutchinson, Fletcher Baker...
Nafahu White.
Thank you. And Terrell May, Jake Turpin, 18th man. Coached for their, I believe, 10th season in a row.
10 years.
10 years, Trent Robinson.
And what be nice not if you think the Roosters can win on Robinson's 10th year in charge.
Like I said, from 8th.
Yeah, you're still nuts though. Now, the new boys, the Dolphins. And this is what they're going to look like for their first ever game in the Big Show. Hamiso, Tabuai, Fido will line up at fullback. The wingers are Jermaine Asako and Tessie New. In the centre enters Ewan Aiken's name there, alongside Branko Lee. In the halves, it is Tongan International or 5'8", Isaiah Katoa getting the first nod over Anthony Milford and Sean O'Sullivan at halfback. In the forwards, it's Tom Gilbert locking down the scrum with Felice Kafusi, the Dolphins' first ever signing, alongside Kenny Bromwich. Up front, it's the captain, Jesse Bromwich, Jeremy Marshall-King and Jared Wallace. And off the bench, Herman Essie, Mark Nichols, the GOAT, Ray Stone and Kurt Donahue, coached by the legend, super coach, the one and only Wayne Bennett.
It's a very solid side for the Dolphins, don't get me wrong, but they will need a lot more time to click together, gel together, whatever you want to call it, to get combinations right. Isaiah Katoa, to get the nod over Anthony Milford is a pretty big call, but he's got the real potential. We saw what he was like at the World Cup. Absolutely blitzed it.
Yeah, he had a very good World Cup campaign with Tonga, of course. Also, it's always a big ask for a rookie 5'8" to come in practically on no bigger stage than Suncorp Stadium up against a real perennial premiership contender in the Sydney Roosters.
That is true. And Sydney Roosters, well, they're not quite full strength. They haven't got Joey Mario in there, but hey, it's still a very, very solid lineup indeed.
Well, they're also missing Jared Warrior-Hargraves as well, which is also a big out for the Chooks. Of course, historically, we know that the Roosters don't play as well when they don't have JWH in the lineup. So, do you consider things have evened up here?
Well, I mean, still got Matt Lodge there. Need to try and keep him away from the sin bin. Also, Victor Raleigh, need to try and keep him away from the sin bin. And away from dining out with the judiciary. So, but But you got Brandon Smith there too, which you know what he's quite capable of. He would still need to try and find some sort of form and getting used to the Roosters side, but he seems to be settling really well what we saw in the pre-season matches. But the first game with the full-on competition and the intensity in that, will be interesting to see what happens there. But in a way, it has kind of evened up. There is more experienced forwards in the, let me say, in the Dolphins side more than the Roosters side, to be quite honest with you, because compared to the Roosters, Dolphins, you've got Bromwich, Wallace, Kafusi, and the other Bromwich, who are very well experienced, and Tom Gilbert, the least experienced, but he's still got baby experience compared to the Roosters, where you got Collins. I know he's a Queensland player as well. Matt Lodge's been around for a while. Egan Butcher and Nat Butcher still finding their feet, but they are going very well. And Victor Radley there as well, so who's played a few games for Origin. But in all honesty, I think the forward pack is where it's going to be won by, but I think the Dolphins might have the slight edge in the forward pack. But speed at the back will be definitely towards the Roosters, with the halves being the same as last year. It'll more and in a way lead to the Roosters, but it is pretty even across the board though.
Well, Dolphins have got all to do for their first ever game, because historically, first ever Premiership games do not go everyone's way. Andrew Ferguson of the Rugby League Project and the Fergo and the Freak podcast has compiled a list of every single first grade rugby league side's first ever game in the top flight, and let's just focus on the bottom half of what he's posted up on Twitter right here. Everything from 1988 onwards. So we're not counting Illawarra or Canberra in this, but this is not looking good, of course. The only few sides that actually got a win in round one in their first ever game.
Can I have a guess? Melbourne.
The Brisbane Broncos first up, downing Manly 44-10 in 1988.
That is a big statement.
1995, the Western Reds, the only time Western Australia has had a rugby that was not union, downing St George 28-16. And of course, yes, Melbourne 25 years ago, this week probably, the Melbourne Storm did in fact down the Illawarra Steelers 14-12. 2000, rather interesting, because you got the Northern Eagles, the failed joint venture between Manly and North Sydney, down the Newcastle Knights 24-14. And then the other joint venture, the West Tigers, drew 24-all with the Brisbane Broncos.
Very nice. So a few wins there.
The last time a new team was introduced, the Gold Coast Titans going down to St George Illawarra, 20-18. Also, that one was up at Suncorp Stadium.
But that was a competitive match too. It's only 2 points difference, and you have to look at that there. But a lot of it seems to be going the way of the news side.
Those are the only wins.
Oh, the only wins.
The only wins since 1988. These were all the losses. Gold Coast going down to Canterbury 21.
Which Gold Coast side?
Tweed Giants by this point. Newcastle going down to the Eels 28-4. North Queensland going down to Canterbury 32-16 in 1995. Same story with South Queensland going down to the Raiders 24-6. Auckland Warriors, very competitive game, going down to the Broncos 25-22.
Oh, what a close game, that one.
In the Super League era, the Adelaide Rams going down to the Cowboys 24-16, and the Hunter Mariners going down to Canterbury 20-16. St George Illawarra, why am I not surprised, going down to the Eels 20-10, as well as, of course, touching on the Titans. So, not very good. But again, from Andrew Ferguson, the Sydney Roosters' individual record since 1908 against the first time I'm opposition.
Win.
No. 31 times they've played against a new team, including in the other 8 foundation clubs, plus everyone who's come since. Their record, heading into game 32 against the new side, 25 wins.
Wow.
And 6 losses.
Wow, so it heavily falls into the Roosters' favour by that stat, though.
Yes, but
But
That's
a lot had
odd.
changed since 1908. A lot. This game's faster than
In
the
their
rules.
last 10 fixtures against new sides, they have a 7-3 record. Of the
Wow.
last 10 new sides they faced, it's not necessarily round one, but just new sides, they lost to Auckland in 1995, 26-22. They lost to Melbourne 32-20. And they also lost to St. George Illawarra 20 points to 16, but are currently against new sides on a 3-game winning run, undowning the Northern Eagles, Tigers, and Titans the first time they met. So they are gunning against the new side. 4 straight wins against the first time I'm team.
Which I think they can do in this one. I mean, the Dolphins are, like I said, got a good side, but as I rattled off for like a few minutes, the week, like where I think the Roosters and Dolphins outclass each other, but I think the Roosters will win this one 7-12.
I think the Roosters open up the score a little bit here. I don't want to see the Dolphins fail, but at the same time, I think even without the big names, I think the Roosters will just be too strong on this occasion. 13 points to 20, I think the Roosters will end up winning this by.
Okay, fair enough.
And finally, we've made jokes about them throughout the preseason. We're still ripping on them up to this point. Drop up a hashtag Tigers Rip in the comments if you're still listening up to this point. Because it's now the West Tigers against the Gold Coast Titans at Leichhardt Oval. A big surprise at fullback. AJ Brimson will start at the back with Alafiana Khan Pereira starting on the flank with Jojo Fafita on the other side. In the centres, we have Aaron Schopp and Philip Sami. The halves, as veteran 5'8", Kieran Foran up against and lining up with rookie halfback Tanner Boyd. In the forwards, it's Isaac Liu at lock forward with David Fafita and Beau Fermor in the back row. And up front, Jamin Jolliffe, Sam Berrells, and the captain Tino Fasua Malawi. And off the bench, it is Jaden Campbell, Aaron Clark, Moaki Fotaweka, and Joe Stimson. And their coach is Justin Holbrook.
For the revamped Tigers, you could say in a way, Dan Laurie's at fullback with David Nofaluma and Charlie Staines the winners, Brent Nader and Tommy Talau making his return in the centres. Adam Dewey and Luke Brooks are the halves pairings with Joe Offahangawi at lock and Isaiah Papali'i and Sean Bloor in the second row. Stefano Ortekamana, Api Coruscant and Dave Cloner in the front row with Jake Simpkin, Alex Toll, Vanilla Paul and Asu Kapoa on the bench with Alex Seyfarth, 18th man, coached by the returning Tim Sheens.
Well, here we go again with the West Tigers. They have, I would argue, they have recruited very well indeed. They have certainly done that.
Coruscant, and Clemmer and Papali are the ones that come to mind.
As well as one name not mentioned in that lineup, and that, of course, is John Bateman, who only arrived in the country very recently.
Was it yesterday or late last week?
Late last week. But, yeah, a very impressive back row combination when all fit, I would assume.
Yeah.
Is that really all we got for the Tigers at the moment?
Well, you can't really read too much into the Tigers. Like, they had absolute... well, you can't read into many of these sides for game one anyway, but we know what Tigers are like last year. They have some really solid players. Once they're full strength and everything, like when John Bateman comes in, then we really get a read on how well they're going to go. But in the meantime, they'll be a lot better than what they have been, but I don't know. But with Gold Coast, it's kind of saying the same with them. Like, they have made some decent signings like Kieran Foran and Aaron Schopp. Can Pereira, everyone's writing a lot about him, so he must be a really good gun kid coming through. The surprise is having Jaden Campbell as the utility on the bench, though.
Yes, I found that quite the surprise because I thought, based on what we have seen and the pattern Justin Holbrook has been working with, he was backing Campbell as the starting fullback and AJ off the interchange as something more of a utility.
But I can kind of see what he might be doing here. If Sam Verrills comes off, they'll chuck Brimson into either a halves instead of Tanner Boyd and put Tanner Boyd to dummy half, or put Brimson to dummy half and Campbell to fullback.
It's a possibility. I can acknowledge it probably is something along those lines, but we'll have to wait and see. More than likely, I think that's what they got Aaron Clark on the bench for, but they want, I think, bench lock, and AJ might be something around there as well. But again, we won't know until we actually see it happen. The Tigers, I think their biggest strength will be Appy Coruscant will be looking to try and get them on the front foot a little bit more than what the service they had in the past. There's no denial about that. Charlie Staines coming in for Kent and Mamala, who's out with injury. Be very interesting to see how he go. Who's playing on that left edge, Brent Naden and Luke Brooks on the same side with Sean Blaw. How that combination temporarily goes. But that's the thing. Luke Brooks. The Tigers might have recruited a solid forward pack. Got Mungle and David Clemmer. He got experience and real strike with Isaiah Papali'i and John Bateman. But they're still lacking a halfback. A decent halfback. Luke Brooks is not that.
Yeah. Brooks just needs to go.
We've
said that numerous times over the last few years. Brooks needs to go. So they can sign a quality halfback.
If they can find a quality halfback.
Yes.
And the reality is, at this rate, it's not a matter of whether Brooks runs under enough or it's all about game management. He is not managing the game.
No way.
He just hasn't. How many games has the Tigers won in recent years where Luke Brooks was the one that took the game by the scruff of the neck?
Not many.
Few and far between. He needs to step up. He is coming into his 10th year of first grade, believe it or not.
Wow, doesn't feel like it though. And he's just gotten worse and worse ever since.
He has not guided the Tigers to one single finals campaign during his time. And you look what Tedesco's been able to do, and you look at what Moses has been able to do. Tedesco won 2 premiership at the Roosters. Moses got the Eels to the grand final. And if you're really of the blue and gold faithful, and if you think Parramatta can get back and win the premiership this year, then Moses is probably going to be key to do that.
Yeah, or even over the next few years, to be quite honest. Doesn't have to be this year, it can be... But, yeah, we already know what our grand final predictions are, as you saw in the posts last week/yesterday.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that, but final call for round 1 with the Dragons kicked out. One final results. The Titans we'll just touch on briefly. I think very smart move to sign Kieran Foran up. They were missing a level-headed at half in the spine last year. Toby Sexton got destroyed ultimately with Jamal Fogarty being let go. Another poor error of judgment from the Titans, I'd have to say.
But it's not even in the whole side, which is a bit unfair in a way too. But do you put him alongside Kieran Foran for a few games, or maybe Kieran Foran instead to help him learn his craft a little bit better? So when when Foran does eventually retire, which I think he'll retire up on Gold Coast, Sexton comes straight in and be a better player overall and manage the game a little bit better.
Well, I think the Titans need to get it right with Boyd from the word go. And to be fair enough, they have backed him in both the preseason challenge outings the Titans have had, and they've actually produced reasonable results, you'd have to say.
Yes, that is true.
A draw against the Broncos in round 1, followed up by a smashing win over the Dolphins in round 2.
Yeah. But let's hope they don't stuff him around like they did with Toby Sexton.
That would be my big worry, but I think anything at the Titans regarding halves is a lot better situation than there is Luke Brooks, because Boyd has actually won games for Gold Coast.
That is true.
And even though it's at Leichhardt Oval, the 8th wonder of the world, and the Tigers are hoping for something different to happen, I just think if the Titans get David Fafita enough clean ball, and I think that's what they got Kieran Foran there to get Fafita involved. If the Titans' right edge fires, they fire. I think the Titans win this in a tight one, 1-6.
Titans won 6 as well with me. So a few that we've agreed on over the course of round 1, but some are different ways.
And on that note, it is half-time right here, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with your Betfred Super League Week 3 debrief. The grand final rematch will be covered. How did Salford lose to Hull KR in the second half? And how far did Wakefield go before they realised, yeah, this isn't working out for us? We'll be right back after a short break.